Hello and welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker and today we're taking a look at the top 8 deck lists for the Game Grid 1K event that took place on the 27th of January. This event, I believe, was in Utah. I've checked out their website, which I'm a big fan of. It looks like they have a lot going on. So if you're in Utah, go check out Game Grid. But yeah, it's nice to see they seem to have a very healthy Lorcana event schedule. So good for them. Thank you for supporting Lorcana. And Flesh and Blood. Does anyone play Flesh and Blood? What's it like? Not that I'm planning on taking on another card game. One is too many. But yeah. Sounds interesting, but yeah, big up Game Grid for supporting Lorcana, and yeah, they hosted a 1K event, which was 38 players. My information today comes from inkdex.com, who'll be linked down below, so thank you to them. I've not been able to see anything about any split that was done between top placements, because I know sometimes inkdex.com, they put first, second, third based on placements in Swiss, which we appreciate them very much for. But yeah, as far as I've heard, there wasn't any prize split. If anyone was there and knows better, please do let me know in the comments and I will pin it. But yeah, let's take a look at the top 8 deck lists. Oh, and at the end, I might have a clue about a little reveal that we might be doing on the channel very shortly. But for now, let's take a look at the top 8 deck lists. So in first place, we've got David, who is piloting Sapphire Steel Wheel, a deck that is quite consistently taking at least a couple of the one or two of the top 8 placements in a lot of events recently. Only one list in this particular top 8, but it made it all the way. So let's take a look. We've got 4 copies of Cruella de Vil with the Now Get Going ability, giving her evasive to be able to deal with certain evasive characters, most notably Stylish Surfer Mini, but it also gets you around Rays and other evasives that we're seeing in format. We've got 3 copies of Prince Eric, dashing and brave, with Challenger 2 making him a 3/3, which just keeps the opponent in check. Our only one drop, we're not running, oh yeah, we are running. We're running 2 copies of the Nothing to Hide as well. Each opponent reveals their hand, draw a card, so just scouting information. Information's always good. You can play this turn 1 just to get an idea of how you expect your opponent to curve, and that might influence how you want to play, or perhaps later on in the game we just want to scout and see what sort of removal they have, see if it's the right time to play key characters, or if it's time to play the whole new world, things like that. But yeah, that's our 1 drop, and then these 2 as our potential 2s. We've got Mickey Mouse here, Detective, with a 1/3 stat line, putting the top card of our deck straight into the inkwell, which is exactly what this deck wants to do. Just funnel, and it opens us up to a turn 4 5 drop, such as Cogsworth and Beast, and something else which we'll get to in a moment. We've got 3 copies of Belle, Strange but Special. If we are able to get to that 10 ink point, then she becomes a very aggressive 5 lore quester and basically says, have an answer for me, or I'm going to just zoom ahead in the lore race. Also, the reader book ability can come in useful for serving the same purpose as Fishbone Quill to funnel our inkwell quicker, so that might be something we want to do. Turn 3 Fishbone Quill, turn 4 Bell to really accelerate, and then turn 5 Whole New World, depending on how we've played. We've also got 3 copies of Haram Flavisham with a 1/6 stat line, but most importantly, Artificer. When you play him and when he quests, banish one of our items to draw 2 cards. So becoming very standard that we just play two different items in the Sapphire Steel Wheel, which are Porpsicle, which lets us draw a card and can give us some healing if we need it. Works really well with Beast Tragic Hero, and Fishbone Quill just accelerate our inkwell. So 3 copies of Flavisham are going to help us give us some additional draw. 4 copies of Cogsworth, Grandfather Clock, Ward makes him really annoying to get rid of, and Unwind, giving resist 1 to all of our characters, which just makes us that bit harder to deal with, especially for steel decks that are going to have to push that bit harder with their chip damage cards. And then we've got 3 copies of Cruella de Vil, Perfectly Wretched, definitely justifying the higher count of Cruella de Vil that we're seeing, because it's very common to see either Cruella or Royal Vizier Jafar in these lists, just as to be an evasive answer. So this serves its purpose. But yeah, 4 is a high count. But yeah, we're also playing 3 copies of the Floodborn version. Shift 3, so we can play this from turn 3, and it's another character that can sing A Whole New World and grab your sword. So it makes sense. If we've already got a reason to play the Cruella de Vil, this actually makes a whole lot of sense. And I'm surprised this hasn't been done already. I didn't think of it. And I'm surprised this hasn't come up already, because this makes all the sense all of the sense. So yeah, like mostly that's the main purpose, but 4-3 is a respectable stat line questing for 2, and oh no you don't. Whenever this character quests, choosing opposing character gets -2 strength. So she's similar to the Amber Floodborn Queen, obviously not quite as aggressive in its manipulation of strength, but just -2 could be enough. I'm sure it matters sometimes, but yeah, just giving us another path to an early whole new world, especially if we've been able to get it to ramp. So yeah, love it. 4 copies of Tragic Hero Beast for that additional draw. 4 copies of Tinkerbell for the spread damage, and Puny Pirate can, if we banish, can just whiteboards. 4 copies of Hades for just hard removal. 2 copies of Stout-Hearted Cinderella. We're not running the Knight in Training to shift onto, but this is fine. We're good. The plan is to have a nice big Inkwell, so we don't need to be able to immediately challenge. Just putting this down is a big threat, which is another have an answer for me or I'm going to wreak havoc. And with the combination of this and Bell and Beast as that as well, and like they can only have removal so many times, so something's going to stick eventually. We talked about Nothing to Hide. 4 copies of Smash, I'm a big fan of, to get rid of the Aerial, the Arthur, the Doc. 2 copies of Let It Go for extra removal, but also something we can sing with our 5 cost or higher characters. Whole New World for the fresh hand. Grab Your Swords for the spread damage, and we talked about the items. So yeah, mostly a list that we've seen. But yeah, a higher count of the Cruella de Vil, the evasive answer, and then taking advantage of that with 3 copies of Cruella de Vil, perfectly wretched. Big fan of this. I think before. I mean, we're pretty close to the end of this format, but with the events that we see, I wouldn't be surprised if this deck takes this on, because I'm a fan of this. I'm sure some people have thought of it and just it's not worth it, but yeah, I like Cruella de Vil here. So yeah, massive congratulations to David. In second place, the first of our Ruby Amethyst lists, we have Jacob with some Ruby Amethyst Control. We've got 7 1-drops, 4 Olaf, 3 mini, also the 3 Kuzco to be an additional way to get an early character down before turn 3, and Kuzco really lets us extend later on in the game, especially in the mirror against Be Prepared, without being too punished and losing too much card control. We've got the 4 Snake, the 4 Fox for our bouncy things, 4 Goat, and only 3 copies of the Rabbit for the draw, 3 Maleficent for the draw. We're also running 2 copies of Merlin Crab to boost our characters, but also being an evasive answer to boost one of the 4 copies of Stylish Surfer Mini we're running ourselves. We're also running 2 copies of Fidget Ratigan's Henchman as another evasive answer, 3 copies of Maui, only 3 Tremaine, which I do now think is the right count, 3 Ursula, so strong now. Well, she always was, but yeah, I think more like it's Ursula, Elsa, and Maleficent are your late game characters that we see the most diversity in which ones, what are the counts. Some people go high counts of all, some people have cut one completely, but I think the MVP of the 3 has got to be Ursula, and I think the majority of players saying that this is the one you should have a high count of. Also 3 count of Maleficent, 3 Teeth and Ambitions, good for the anti-aggro, good against Deal Amber Songs, good to offset the opposing Fidget for your Stylish Surfer Mini, lots of use for this card. 4 Friends, 4 Be Prepared, and just 1 copy of the Sorcerer's Spellbook. So yeah, another tried and tested list, probably the best version of Ruby Amethyst Control, in my opinion. You could debate. I would definitely want an Elsa in here, but yeah, by and large, the skeleton that we know works. So congratulations to Jacob. Also in top 4, we've got Eric with Ruby Amethyst Control. We're all in on the 1-drops at 4 Mini and 4 Olaf. Once again, the 3 Kuzco. We've got the 4 Snake, the 4 Fox, 4 Goat. We've got 4 Rabbit here, 3 Maleficent once again, 4 Mini, Stylish Surfer, no Crabs. All the way in on the Mauis and the Tremaines, top counts. Once again, the 3 Ursula, but there is the 1 copy of Elsa. But additionally, the 3 Maleficents are very top heavy. 3 Teeth and Ambitions, 4 Friends on the other side, and 4 Be Prepared. So yeah, a few count differences, a couple of missing things like no Crab here, no Spellbook, but yeah, list looks good. Congratulations to Eric. Our last top 4, another Ruby Amethyst Control, but a more aggro version. I've called this Fireball Control, because any deck that's running 4 copies of Dragon's Fire, that's novel. Not since first chapter, like it was that long ago, back in my day, in first chapter. That'll be me one day when I'm still doing top 8 deck lists, hopefully. But yeah, like it's been a hot minute since your boy has seen 4 Dragon's Fire. I've been championing Dragon's Fire recently. I've been running 2, and I'm edging closer to 3, guys. I'm not gonna lie, but a statement 4. But again, makes sense because we are a very mid-range aggro version. So we've got the 7 1-drops, 3 Kuzco once again, 4 Snake, 4 Fox, 4 Goat, 4 Rabbit. We're also seeing 4 of the Crab. So yeah, boosting the likelihood that you are going to have this combination of Stylish Surfer Mini and Crab to deal with opposing evasive more often than not, because that's often the problem. Sometimes the 2 Crab just like you're just not seeing them together enough, or at least I didn't always. But yeah, a statement. But again, it's not like Crab boot. It makes all of our 1-drops just like machines. So yeah, I do like the high Crab count. Makes sense. We're also seeing 4 Goofy, who I'm a big fan of, creeping into various Ruby Amethyst lists, both mid-range and high-range. Just a really good card. Deals with most evasive things. Having the 4 willpower himself makes him that bit harder to get rid of. You get a lot of value from Goofy. 4 Maui, we're all in on the Yzma with the Cruel Irony, shuffling a character back into the deck, and that the owner of that card draws 2 cards, so we can just goodbye a threat or bounce one of our own cards back to just give us some draw. 2 copies of Tremaine, once again the 4 Dragon's Fire, which I don't hate it at all. I'm leaning towards 3, so why not? Fireball! Da, 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 da. Sorry, I don't really do TikTok much, but I like when I do, it's always D&D, and every other video I watch is the Fireball gag. But it still makes me laugh. 4 copies of Teeth and Ambitions and 4 Friends on the other side. No Be Prepared in this list, which I only bring up because there's another list very similar to this that we're going to look at next, which is running the 4 Be Prepareds. But yeah, a much more aggro version. Like some mid-range versions like this, you would expect to be running like Arthur's and LeFou's. But no, a different route here. Just a high Crab count, all in the Goofies, high Dragon's Fire. So yeah, I think a slightly different version to most Ruby Amethyst lists we've seen topping events. So yeah, massive congratulations to Skylar. And our last Ruby Amethyst list in top 8. Once again, I've called this Fireball Bounce because once again, we've got the 4 Fireball. Most of this list is the same, except for it is running the 4 LeFou and the 4 Arthur. We're still running the 4 Crab, nice high count of 1-drops. The 4 Be Prepared here, and once again, the 4 Dragon's Fire. No Yzmas, no Goofies, no Teeth and Ambitions, no Kuzcos, and no Tremaines. So that is quite a lot of card differences, but overall it still looks very similar, but its engine working in a very different way. And this combination of LeFou and Arthur can just be deadly. And yeah, I like the high Crab count. And yeah, 4 Dragon's Fire. Bad gold. 4 Be Prepared, I think it's like, I get it. It gives you more times where you can, like, because often, like, this style of deck is just going to go way ahead, but then, like, run out of cards, and the opponent's eventually going to catch that up, and they just need to slow you down enough to race out ahead. So in situations like that, where they've really extended and just cleared your board, it's really nice to have the 4 Be Prepared. I really like the Arthur and LeFou, but other than that, I think I prefer the other version just without the 4 Be Prepared. I think I'd probably just cut the 4 Be Prepared, and I don't know, maybe the Goofies? Something like, I'm a big fan of the Goofies. From the other list. Yeah, like I don't necessarily feel the need for the Tremaines or the Yzmas. I feel like the Goofies would put in a lot of work. Maybe find somewhere to find room for the Kuzco. But then you're like, this is all 4s. Like, this is like really nice to look at just in like the card counts. But yeah, really strong looking list. Congratulations to Samuel. Moving away from Ruby Amethyst, we've got Spencer, who top-8'd with Steel Amber Tiana Bodyguards. Similar to a list that top-8'd both the Return of the Mim event and the Rule Zero event in London that I covered the other day. But with some slight variations. So we've got 4 copies of Ballroom Sensation Cinderella with Singer 3, meaning she can sing our songs cheap. In that vein, we've got 4 copies of Let the Storm Rage On, does 2 chip damage and lets us draw a card, and 4 copies of Strength for a Raging Fire, doing a damage per character we've got on the board, so we can get to quite high numbers with this, with how wide this deck can spread. So she can sing those cheap, but she can also shift into one of the 3 copies of Stout-Hearted Cinderella, 5/5 stat line, Quest for 3, Resist 2, and the Singing Sword. If we play a song, then we can challenge a ready character, so just a really aggressive character in our meta. We've got 4 copies of Lilo, Making a Wish to be another aggressive quester. We've got the 4/4 Stitch line and Rockstar Stitch, who has a nice aggressive quest for 3, 3/5 stat line, and of course Adoring Fans. Whenever we play a character with 2 or less, we can draw an additional card, and we've got a lot of characters that fit fit that mold. Also the 4 Bodyguard Simba, who can protect our Lilo and other more important characters who we'll get to. 4 copies of Sleepy, only a 2 cost, 2/3 stat line, quest for 2, and the Yawn ability, forcing him to enter play exerted, which quite often means absolutely nothing. You get full value from Sleepy a lot, so really like the addition. 4 copies of Doc to reduce our ink cost for characters, and also opening us up to a turn 4 Mufasa or Beast that we're running here. 1 copy of Piglet, who's really good for getting Rapunzel online, and hey, he's a 2/4 stat. He's like 4 willpower can be tough to get over, and questing for 2, I can, even if you don't get a Rapunzel playoff, Piglet probably gets value. 2 copies of Benja to remove those items, removing Flute, Sorcerer's Spellbooks, Fishbone Quills, those sort of things. We've got a 3/3 line of Hercules and the Prince as additional bodyguarders. The Prince having a 1/3 stat line, questing for 2 and resist 1, and Hercules just having a 3/3 stat line and bodyguard. So these guys are going to protect our Lilo, our aggressive questers, and our Tiana, who we've got here, celebrating Princess, 1/4 stat line, uninkable quest, 4 cost, resist 2, and what you give is what you get. While this character is exerted and you have no cards in your hand, your opponent can't play actions. So just shutting down so much of the meta. Be prepared, whole new world, grab your swords, friends on the other side. Just says no to it all, and we just want to keep her safe with all of our bodyguarders. 3 copies of Rapunzel, as I alluded to earlier, with the Piglet, just to be an additional way of us drawing cards, on top of the 2 copies of Beast, who we've got here. 1 copy of Moana, with the we can fix it. Whenever this character quests, you may ready your other princess characters. They can't quest for the rest of the turn, so this is going to let us be a bit more aggressive with our Rapunzel, our Tiana, and our Cinderella Ballroom Sensation, and our Stout-Hearted Cinderella. So, yeah, I like Moana here. 2 copies of Moana, of Mufasa. We're running 8 non-character cards, so not the best odds for not hitting, but still fine. Like, I say not the best odds only because most Mufasa decks are running 0 to 3 non-character cards, but I think even with 8, you probably hit far more often than not, which can come in incredibly useful and just let us keep tempo, especially against Be Prepared if they are able to get it off. Hopefully they don't, because Tiana's locking them out of it. But yeah, Mufasa really strong, and if they deal with it just by challenging, then he's going to replace himself anyway, so you love to see it. And I think that is everything. So yeah, a really strong looking list, some slight variations from the Steel Amber Tiana Bodyguards list that we've seen recently, instead utilizing Mufasa, and a slightly higher count of Beast. I think the other ones played 1 copy of Beast, but yeah, certainly no Mufasa. I think that's the main difference here, and obviously some counts. But yeah, deck looks good. Congratulations to Spencer. And then our last 2 top 8 decks are both exactly the same. They were piloted by Aaron and Drew, and we have some Steel Amethyst Blue Fairy control. So we've got 4 copies of the Blue Fairy, rewarding good deeds, 2 cost inkable, 1/1 with evasive and ethereal glow. Whenever you play a Floodborn character, you may draw a card. So our Floodborns here, we've got 4 copies of Beast Tragic Hero, 2 copies of Yzma Scary Beyond All Reason, 4 Tink Giant Fairy, and 3 Elsa Spirits of Winter. So playing any of these while we've got Blue Fairy on the field is going to let us draw additional cards. Also running 4 Olaf and 2 Tiana, so 6 1-drops, both with a 1/3 stat line to fuel the 4 copies of Snake we've got, the 4 copies of Fox. We've got the 2 Merlin Crab in here as well. No evasive to boost. No evasive answers at all, really. Obviously, other than we're running, like, chip damage cards, but no characters that deal with evasive. I mean, we've got Blue Fairy. To be fair, yeah, you could boost the Blue Fairy and deal with things that way. Obviously, you are then losing the Blue Fairy yourself. But if push comes to shove, yeah, you can boost the Blue Fairy to deal with a lot of evasive. So I imagine that did come up. 3 copies of Benja to remove items. We've got the 4 copies of Tiny Tactician Tinkerbell, who I really like to see in decks with Tinkerbell. I think just the having turn 4 Big Tink open to you is really, really strong. Or even if it's not turn 4, just like Tinkerbell's ability is inherent to her challenging. So I think shifting her just is so good. We've got only 3 copies of Goat, but 4 copies of Rabbit for the prioritizing the draw. 3 Smash, as I said, 4 Friends on the other side, 2 Strength for Raging Fire, and 4 Grab Yours Swords. And yeah, both lists exactly the same by Drew and Aaron. So yeah, massive congratulations to both of them. And that is it for the top 8 deck lists for the Game Grid 1K event. We are getting closer to the end of the season. I feel like most people are ready for a fresh format now, But we've got a couple weeks to go. I will continue to cover as many of the big events as I can, and give us data all the way through to the end. I've also thought it would be nice to do a complete meta report. Like I'll go through all the deck lists that I've covered over the whole season and give exact stats of how many of each deck, and we'll see which variants were the ones that came up, and judging by just placements, what were definitively the best decks. So yeah, I will continue to cover them, but yeah, I promised I didn't promise, but I teased a clue for something that might be coming. Here is your clue. And that is it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you're brand new to the channel, please subscribe for all things Lorcana. Hit the like button to show your support, and we'll see you soon.